16. Number 1, he starts it, will be at the back. And then in 15, Schmidt and Andrusko aboard the 38. Then Tom Kerr, Mike Krantz in the 74. The 69, William Hubble, Eric Curran back in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action. Sydney McKee rolls off in 12 in her number 87 in LB Cup, just behind Matt Dickin in the 36. Randy Solari in the 03 on pole in LB Cup. Then you move to Pro-Am. Corey Lewis, McKay Snow leading in that category, roll off in 9th. Victor Gomez in 8th. That is the pole sitter in the Am category. Leo Lamelas making a charge, trying to come back in the Pro-Am championship with a good qualifying run there. Then Middleton and McAleer aboard the number 1. Pro-Am category pole sitter, Ashton Harrison, Andrea Amici, they roll off 5th. And then the top 4 cars all in the pro category. Brendan Godovic and Jimenez, they will share the second row, and up front, Madison Snow in second position, and most importantly on the pole, Jacob Edson. He will start from the pole, doing everything that he and Stephen Agakani now need to do to try to win this championship. For Madison Snow, he must finish third in order to have any hopes of winning this championship if the number 6 of Agakani and Edson win. Safety car now off of 17 into pit lane. Field lined up, getting ready for the start, looking for the green. Lined up nicely, bringing everybody down slowly. Waiting for the green, there it is. Edson now with the jump. Good start for him. Madison Snow in the white 16 just behind.
Great start there by the pole sitter Jacob Edson to take the lead of this race, looking to carry on the good work that he and Stephen Agakani did this morning. They're now within 7 points of the lead in the championship. It's still led by Madison Snow with a 1 point from yesterday for the pole position for this race. That's another point closer for Jacob Edson and Stephen Agakani. But Madison Snow is doing exactly what he needs in that second position.
What I think, Jeremy, is I think it's actually down to 6. When I'm looking at the points that were supplied from IMSA, they don't show the pole for today. So I think it's only a 6-point margin. And if you look at that, that means Madison Snow must finish there in the third position if he wants to win this championship. If it were to finish in a tie and Edson and Agakani were to win the race today, they would win on tiebreakers because they would have more wins.
That's exactly right, Brian. They've each got 3 wins coming into this final race of the season. So if Agakani and Edson can win this race, that'll be the tiebreaker right there. So you're right, they have to be at least 1 point ahead to win the championship. But for Madison Snow, it was all looking good this morning for him. He was running in the second place early on, but slipped back and eventually finished in 4th position. So he does need at least a podium here to hang on to that championship.
And championships not over with as well. Corey Lewis, McKay Snow, they have a 7-point advantage over Leo Lamelas in the Pro-Am category. So they need a good finish there as well. That's a little bit harder for Lamelas to close that 7 points. It can be done, but it is some heavy, heavy lifting indeed. Stephen McAleer and Stuart Middleton on board the number 1, trying to get past the 13 just in front. Sergio Jimenez in that 13. What a great run he had at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, sweeping the victories there. He and ANSA Motorsports have really come on strong, and you look at ANSA Motorsport with very, very little experience in this category, sitting 4th in the team championship in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. How bumpy is it at Sebring? You just watch the cars underneath the bridge in turn 17, you can get a good idea. And in fact, Jeremy, that's where we saw Danny Formal literally rip that Pirelli racing slick off the left rear wheel in race 1 today.
Yeah, that was really incredible. I mean, the car was jumping so high off the ground. When it finally landed, it just tore the tyre right off the rim. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen that
remarkable. I mean, incredible. But I tell you what, Danny Formal, he started last in this race. He qualified 5th yesterday, but had to start from the back because the car failed technical inspection after qualifying. The ride height was too low on that car. Already on the first lap, he's moved his way from 16th to 9th. A great run in car number 99 for Danny Formal.
And we've seen Danny Formal throughout the season mount some incredible runs after problems. He also ran in the Michelin Pilot Challenge race earlier today, so he's got a lot of track time. You'd think he'd be tired, but he has a lot of track time, and he knows probably better than anybody right now what condition this Sebring International Raceway is in after all the traffic we've had on track today. Sergio Jimenez leading the number 1 down the back straightaway right now. Stuart Middleton. The first 5 cars on the racetrack, all in the pro category, and then just behind the number 1, the 25, Andrea Amici. Ashton Harrison, Andrea Amici in that 25, finally got to victory lane today. They have been fighting for a win all season long. They found it today. That will help them with capping the season feeling good about looking into 2021, and what a crazy season it has been.
Oh man, hasn't it just? It's been a real roller coaster ride for so many people this season. It's been a lot of heartbreak for a lot of people, but we've managed to carry on the racing, which has been pretty remarkable. It's been a great season of racing in this championship. We're down from the normal 12 races down to 10. Normally, there's a Lamborghini World Finals somewhere around the world. It changes from year to year. That will not take place this year because of the pandemic. So this is the final round of the championship here in North America.
Stuart Middleton really wanting to get past Jimenez down in turn 7 into the braking and the hairpin. Anti-lock braking systems on board these Lamborghinis, but that's close to 155 mile-an-hour top speed as you get down to turn 7, then on the brakes into the anti-lock braking system. And then the next best passing zone, turn 10. Then it snakes over to 13, difficult to get done. And this is that area of the racetrack where you want to push your competitor into a mistake, because once you leave turn 13, very difficult to get a pass done until you get all the way to the end of the back straightaway, heading into Sunset Bend, turn 17.
Yeah, so this is a great racetrack. I mean, it really is a challenge for the teams, the drivers. The weather today has been quite nice. It's been fairly warm and not too hot out there. The sun is out at the moment, but we're getting kind of late afternoon here, so shadows are lengthening, and that could be a problem for the drivers, particularly towards the end of this 50-minute race as they head down the back straightaway into Sunset Bend.
Stuart Middleton really putting pressure on Jimenez down into 17, looks to the inside, side by side, wheel to wheel, and when you get down on the inside, that's where those bumps are. That's where Formal had his problem, but for Middleton, gets the job done. And Stephen McAleer said after race 1, he said, this is the best Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo we have had all year long. They've struggled to find a car that ran well over the long haul, but they had one today. They found it this weekend, and right now you're seeing the results of that balance on the number 1.
This super battle a little bit further back there with the meat in the sandwich there is Leo Lamelas. He's got Danny Formal right behind him. He's got Victor Gomez, the 4th, directly ahead of him. Gomez, he's running in the AM category. He's the lead. Ahead of him is Andrea Amici, who leads Pro-Am, but right behind Victor Gomez, there's 2 other green cars, Leo Lamelas and Danny Formal, and they've pulled out already quite a long way from the championship leader in the Pro-Am category. That is McKay Snow. He will hand over this car in the latter stages to Corey Lewis and comes into this race with a 7-point advantage over Leo Lamelas.
But if I'm counting my numbers correctly, as it sits right now, if the 25 were to win in Pro-Am, and I know we have a long way to go, and the 63 finishes in 4th, that would hand the championship to McKay Snow and Corey Lewis. I'm sure that Corey Lewis, when he takes over, is going to want to take that 63 to the front. But right now, things are going the way that McKay Snow and Corey Lewis want to see them go. Danny Formal in that bright green 99, really charging to the front. Leo Lamelas just in front.
He made up a lot of ground in that first lap, but now he's up with some other quick cars here, and finding a way past Leo Lamelas is not going to be easy, because Leo Lamelas, as we've just been saying, he's got his eyes potentially on a championship, so he doesn't want to lose any ground at all, particularly not to another Pro-Am category car, and that would be Danny Formal, who's right there behind him.
Absolutely. As a lot of people who live in Florida like to fish, I always say catching or hooking a fish is one thing. Landing it is something entirely different right now. Danny Formal, I think he's got the hook firmly set on the 24 of Leo Lamelas. He's got him on the line, but how does he reel him in? How does he get by him?
Yeah, that's the big number question, isn't it? And we'll have to see. But certainly there's some good dicing here. The race already now settling down. Our race leader, Jacob Edson, he set his fastest lap of the race on the second lap. We've now completed 4 on lap 5. He turned a 2 minutes 2.5 on the second lap. Hasn't got within half a second of that last couple of laps, but he has extended his lead over Madison Snow out now to over 2 seconds.
Well, I think when you look at Jacob Edson and Madison Snow up front right now, 2 young men who have very good heads on their shoulders. For Jacob Edson, he's done everything he needed to do. Stephen Agakani, very much the same. They came in here, they knew they needed every point available, and they have taken every point available to this point in the weekend. Both poles for race 1 and race 2, the victory in race 1, and right now Edson up front doing everything he can to collect maximum points on the weekend. That's what they need to do. For Madison Snow, Jeremy, don't you think he just needs to be cool, calm, and collected? If he continues to run right there and continues to see that white, red, and green number 6 in front of him for the rest of this race, he's got a championship coming at the end of this.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's certainly his goal. It was also the goal this morning. It didn't actually come to pass this morning, but this afternoon's a different story, different race. It's certainly tough for these guys to have 2 races in one day. That's a lot of action for them, particularly as it's been a long day for these guys. For Madison Snow, also driving in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championships, 12 hours of Sebring tomorrow. The good news for him is he hasn't had to get out in that car today, so he can just concentrate on this Lamborghini Huracan and try and bring it to the checkered flag, or at least in the top 3 positions.
Yeah, Madison Snow actually looking forward to 2 championships this weekend. The first would be handed out this afternoon if he can finish where he needs to garner the Pro Championship in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America action, doing what he needs to do right now, running second behind Jake Edson. The second championship that he wants to go for this weekend is the Michelin Endurance Cup in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. He and regular season teammate Brian Sellers have a good shot at it, and they'll share that car with Corey Lewis, another Lamborghini, in the WeatherTech Mobile One 12 Hours of Sebring tomorrow.
Battle we're looking at right now is for the LB Cup category. That's the least experienced drivers in this field. All of the cars are the same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, 620 horsepower. Yeah, no lacking in horsepower. But 4 different categories of drivers: pros, pro-ams, AMs, and the least experienced drivers, the LB Cup contenders. That's what we're looking at right now. Is Matt Dicking holding off from Randy Solari. Randy Solari has already got the championship wrapped up in the LB Cup, but at the moment he's being led by Matt Dickin in the car number 36. Both of them teammates at Change Racing.
Matt Dickin missed the last race weekend, 2 races at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but he has not missed a beat when he stepped back in to that Lamborghini this weekend, leading, as you say right now, in LB Cup. Jake Edson in Pro, Andrea Amici in the Pro-Am category, Victor Gomez in Am, and then Matt Dickin in LB Cup, the Ford leaders in the 4 different classes.
And side by side now for Danny Formal, trying to make that move on Leo Lamelas as they head toward turn 1.
I'm not sure what race control is going to say about the dancing number 24 Lamborghini down the front straightaway, Jeremy. A lot of moves there back and forth, and typically that will garner the attention of the officials in race control.
Yeah, that's true. He's going to have to be. He's been around IMSA now for several years. Leo Lamelas. He's won races in the Prototype Challenge Series, of course, and making the move into Lamborghinis this year. He's done a good job too as Leo Lamelas. He has won the Pro-Am category on 3 occasions during the season, and still has, as you were saying earlier on, an outside chance at the championship.
Surprised by the bump. I haven't really seen it there before. There in the Fangio chicane, the right-hand bend has a pretty significant bump as the apex, as Danny Formal looks to avoid giving Lamelas a pretty significant bump as they come off of turn 10 and head over to 13. These two cars locked together. I said Danny Formal needs to reel him in. He has. Now he needs to get him in the boat because he's right there.
Yeah, there's not much to choose between these two. I mean, they are super tight. Leo Lamelas is having to work really, really hard to keep the Costa Rican behind him. Danny Formal, really not a name that's very well known in the car racing ranks at the beginning of this season. He's done some racing, mainly in his native Costa Rica. He's run touring cars down there. But here in North America, very little road racing, certainly no pro racing before this season. Been given this opportunity by Alan Nadal and Patrick Otto Madsen at Ansa Motorsports. But Danny Formal is an absolute legend in the karting ranks. In fact, as you see, a spin for Andrea Amici. That is a leader in Pro-Am. That could be critical for the hopes of Leo Lamelas in terms of the championship, perhaps.
Absolutely, and I was literally about to say what a great job Andrea Amici had been doing, giving chase to the 13 in front of him of Sergio Jimenez, but then into 17 looks like just got it wrong at the entry. Really, most of the big bumps are a little farther through the corner, so I'm not sure if he got it on the bumps, Jeremy, or just got in there and got a little too much weight on the nose and got the rear end coming around. I talked to Stephen McAleer about the balance of these cars, and he said on this racetrack with these bumps, it is difficult. It's a relatively heavy car, a lot of weight in the back and up a little bit high. And you get it in there and get it pinned on the nose, it's going to come around. And Andrea Amici, certainly a very talented driver, but this racetrack got the best of him right there.
Wow.
As this battle between Danny Formal and Leo Lamelas is just intense is not really the right word, Jeremy. This is great stuff.
That was fantastic. I mean, Danny Formal just threw it in there from the outside line, trying to make it stick. And as he got the power down, the car just slid out from underneath him, and that allowed Leo Lamelas to get back through again. Let's have a look at this again. Carries a lot of speed into the corner, but runs a little bit wide. And Leo Lamelas there has kept his wits about him and moves back through into the lead of what is now, of course, the battle for the lead in Pro-Am, 7th and 8th overall.
Danny Formal is now going to have to fight to get back to where he was, which was on the rear wing of Leo Lamelas. He got in there. I thought he was going to get the pass done and carried just a mile an hour, maybe a mile an hour, too much speed. Could not get the car turned the way he needed to. And Lamelas able to hold on to the position a little bit further back. Tom Kerr aboard the 74 under attack from the 38 through turn 1. Tom Kerr having a great weekend in with a new co-driver, which typically he has not had once he started his debut a few races back. Moritz Kranz, the German driver, in with him this weekend, and Kranz was spectacular in race number 1 this morning.
Yeah, did a really good job, didn't he? And Tom Kerr did a good job here to hold on ahead of Scott Schmidt. He'll be sharing the number 38 car with Trevor Andrusko. That pairing unfortunately had problems yesterday in qualifying, some sort of obscure electrical problem. The Lamborghini engineers worked overnight to replace the loom in that car. They didn't get it fixed in time for the start of the race, which was pretty early this morning, but they did get the car out during that race. The car was running well. Now Scott Schmidt, with very little track time this weekend, is trying to find a way past Tom Kerr. That's the battle for the second and third positions in the AM class.
Not really hearing Danny Formal with an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, but I am hearing the line, "I'm back," or "I'll be back," because he is back on the rear wing of Leo Lamelas right there once again as they came into the hairpin, closing in these braking zones. That's where he needs to get it done. My question, though, Jeremy, is how much of that Pirelli tire did he use up trying to get back there, and will he be able to mount a charge? Should he just sit back and cool things down just a little bit and then try to get back in the action?
Well, yeah, possibly so, but as we see, that's Trevor Andrusko just staying out wide, allowing safe passage there for the second place car of Madison Snow. So he moves past cleanly past those two lapped cars and can maintain his chase of the race leader Jacob Edson. But that gap from first to second, it's been just stretching steadily, 2 or 3 tenths of a second per lap. It's now almost 4 seconds as they cross the start-finish line to complete 9 laps. And there is 31 minutes remaining. There's a mandatory pit stop during this race, which can take place any time from about just over a minute now for the ensuing 10 minutes. That's a window which all the teams have to make a mandatory pit stop.
1 driver format, 96 seconds. 2 driver format, 93 seconds on pit lane. And as Jeremy said, it is a mandatory stop in that 10-minute window. You can decide the beginning of it, the middle of it, the end of it, whatever. You have to wait until the 30-minute mark, and then you've got to have it done before the 40-minute mark in order to satisfy the rules. Brandon Godovic, a mirror full of the number 1 of Stuart Middleton. We talked about the fact that Stephen McAleer said this is the best the number 1 car has been all season long. He's looking forward to climbing aboard once they make their pit stop. McAleer won the IMSA Michelin Prototype Challenge race here last year in a solo drive. And to give you an idea how difficult this racetrack is, he drove that race and won it in extreme pain because he broke a tooth in qualifying the day before. He was biting down so hard over the bump. So it gives you an idea of the Prototype Challenge car around this racetrack, just how abrupt they are, but also how rough this racetrack is. He said this Lamborghini is like driving a luxury sedan around here with the suspension that it has on it compared to the Prototype Challenge car. Is the number 1 into pit lane. Pit lane for Lamborghini Super Trofeo on the back straight, the WEC pits that were put in a couple of years ago, not the front straight. And so Middleton in, and we'll hand over to McAleer.
He will indeed, and the window opened just a few seconds before that. And I think he probably felt like he was being held up by Brandon Godovic. So bring that car into the pit lane and hand it over to Stephen McAleer for the final stages of this race. If he can get it out with some clear track, maybe he can jump that position. Also into the pits then, Sergio Jimenez for the car number 13, the AM leader Victor Gomez, and Danny Formal in the second of the ANSA Motorsports cars also into the pits.
For a lot of these drivers, this is their final race of 2020. Strange to say that being at Sebring, it would be your final race of the season. Some drivers have other races that they'll run in, but it is the last weekend for IMSA in 2020, which is so odd. Usually it's the second race of the year in March, but all of these guys want to go out with a good result. Think about Sydney McKee winning her first Lamborghini Super Trofeo race last time out at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. She would like another great finish to take into the offseason, but it's not going to be a very long offseason at all. We're already towards the middle of November, and it won't be long before January rolls around, and we'll be back at the Rolex 24 at Daytona with IMSA.
Yeah, it's amazing how time flies, doesn't it, when you're having fun? And even if we're not racing, we're having fun. But there's some good dices all the way down this field. It's really cool. There's our race leader now, Jacob Edson. He's going to bring that car in. Just had to get past a slower car there, one of the back marker cars, but he's going to bring the race leading car into the pit lane with 27 minutes and change remaining in this race.
And for Jacob Edson and Stephen Agakani both, doing everything they can to win this championship. There is no shame in the performance that they have put in this year. We talked about earlier a couple of mistakes throughout the season that have cost them a better run at the championship. It's still only 6 points right now. But you know what? As race car drivers, you make mistakes. As humans, you make mistakes. No one is perfect. And if you're not charging hard, then it's easy to be mistake-free. These two young drivers have given it their all season long, and they've got some great results to show for it. And the season is not over. 27 minutes to go for the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series.
Yeah, plenty of racing remaining in this race. These pit stops could be absolutely crucial. They have been on several occasions this season. They have to be that minimum pit stop time, which is from when they enter the pit lane to when they exit the pit lane. And if you are too short on your pit stop, you'll get a penalty.
We saw a couple of penalties handed down this morning. If you're short for less than 2 seconds, they'll assign that difference at the end of it. If it's more than that, the penalty is severe. It is a stop and hold for the amount of time that you are short. So you've got the pit lane delta, the time it takes you to run through pit lane, plus the time that you were short. So if you're going to be short, only be short by a little tiny bit, because otherwise the penalty is going to be huge.
Yeah, that's right. And they all have timers on board. They have the same pit stall all the way through the race weekend, so they know when they will have practiced this when they leave their pit stall, how much time needs to elapse before they hit the timer at the pit exit. That they'll have known already how much time it's spent coming in, so they can back time it, so they can leave at just the optimal time, so as not to trigger that alarm at the pit exit.
Danny Formal has now caught the 29 of Victor Gomez, who leads in the AM category. 4 different classes out on the racetrack at the same time, all driving the same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo. That's one of the things that makes this series so competitive. Brian Till, Jeremy Shaw with you. The final Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America race of the season. 4 championships still on the line. Victor Gomez has the AM championship wrapped up. Randy Solari has wrapped up LB Cup as well, but the 2 championships left open, Pro and Pro-Am, those have yet to be decided with just over 24 minutes to go in the 2020 season. Jeremy, when you look back on 2020 and you look at the battles that we've seen, especially with the youngsters up front, Stephen Agakani, Jacob Edson, Madison Snow, Brandon Godovic thrown in there, what do you think has been the turning point so far? We still have over 24 minutes to have another turning point in this season, but what do you think the turning point has been so far?
Well, I think the consistency in terms of the overall championship, the Pro Championship, as we see Matt Dickin not up to speed in the car that was leading in the LB Cup category. Matt Dickin led all the way through to the round of pit stops. He's already made his stop, but he doesn't seem now to be back up to speed, so that's a shame for Matt Dickin. But I think what the difference has been is the consistency. Madison Snow hasn't been quite as fast on a regular basis as Jacob Edson and Stephen Agakani. They have got 5-6 pole positions to the 2 of Madison Snow. But Madison Snow has made very, very few mistakes and has been always up there and thereabouts. So it was a first of the season for Madison Snow. He came into the took Czechoslovakian position this afternoon, which position do that right now.
Well, consistency is what wins championships. This battle on the racetrack has been consistent, the 24 being hounded by Danny Formal in the bright green 99. And you talk to young drivers, and it's hard to get them to understand sometimes that the average finish of a championship winning driver is somewhere between like 2.5 and 5. So somewhere between a 2.5 place finish and a 5th place finish, depending on the series, depending on the number of cars in the classes. And as my friend Dorsey Schrader always used to say, if you finish second in a 2nd place car, you won your class that day. You can't will a 2nd place car into 1st. Take your points and win championship. Race wins are great, but championships are even better. And I think perhaps the experience of Madison Snow. He's done this before. He's won championships before. And it is a very different ball game to win a championship than it is to win a single event.
That's absolutely right. Do you imagine? So, I mean, he's still only 24 years of age, which seems hard to imagine. But then, of course, he was racing and winning in Porsches at the age of 16, which is pretty remarkable. That was a long, long time ago now. But you know, tremendously successful driver and has used all that experience to excellent effect. He's also one of the very few drivers to have raced here at Sebring previously in a Lamborghini.
Closing the gap a little bit, Madison Snow to Stephen Agakani, just about 1.4 seconds in front, not near that difference between the 24 of Leo Lamelas and the 99 of Danny Formal. Formal has hounded Lamelas since the drop of the green and is still there, but just cannot find a way by, Jeremy.
No, he can't. It's been a fantastic battle between these two, and you know, they're both two young chargers, and it looks like now maybe that Danny Formal is going to have the inside line here at turn 3. Leo Lamelas kind of feints to the inside as if to block him. He can't do so. Formal finally makes that pass. Really, really good driving by both of those two.
And that all got set up back here over the bumps. You can see the 24 of Leo Lamelas just really, the car off the ground, all four wheels at times, and you can't get drive to those Pirelli tires if they're not on the ground. I think that gave Danny Formal just that little advantage down towards turn 1, and passes at Sebring oftentimes take multiple corners to get accomplished because of how rough this racetrack is and the left-right configurations. One car has an advantage in one corner, and if you can stay with them, the other car is going to have the advantage in the next corner because of that right-left transition. Snow really beginning to close now on Stephen Agakani. This would be for the overall lead. And where Madison Snow sits right now, the championship is his. This is a pass that does not need to happen. My question, Jeremy, is how hard will he press to make it happen?
Yeah, and from his team's perspective, you hope not, because if he can just settle there in the second place, that's just fine. End game is championship. That's what the everybody wants here, is the season-long Lamborghini Super Trofeo title. And Madison Snow is perfectly positioned right now. It's a good pit stop. I was a bit surprised by the US Racetronics team bringing Jacob Edson into the pits so early. I'd have thought he was out front pulling away. Why not leave him out there as long as possible before handing over the car to Stephen Agakani? I mean, they're both two very talented young drivers. Jacob Edson is leader there at 25 years of age. Agakani is still only 17. I would have thought the better move might have been to leave Ed, because he was pulling away, stay out as long as he can before he now Madison Snow is going to use his greater experience, and he's closing that margin. That's down quite a bit less than 1 second between the top two out on the racetrack.
Well, in every series, whether it's the WeatherTech Series, Michelin Pilot, Prototype Challenge, one driver is going to have an advantage on a day, and I think that's what you're alluding to, Jeremy. You find the driver who has the advantage in your pairing, and you leave him in for as long as you possibly can. Madison Snow, remember, doing this solo, so he has, 32 minutes almost of experience on the racetrack already, and for Stephen Agakani, he's only been in the car for a few minutes, so Snow taking advantage of the experience that he has gained here at Sebring over the years, plus the time in the car today and in this race a little bit earlier, and perhaps that's why he's able to be closing the gap little bits at a time over Stephen Agakani in the 6. It was 1.4 seconds 2 laps ago, only 0.9 last time by.
Yeah, it was a good bit closer that Madison Snow was able to get. And just looking at the lap times at the beginning of the race, the Jacob Edson obviously had the advantage of fresher tyres, but his first flying lap, the second lap of the race, that was the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 2.53. The car number 6 now, and Stephen Agakani having taken over from Jacob Edson. He's just his best lap, 2 minutes 5.0, last lap within a tenth of a second. So he doesn't have the same pace that Jacob Edson had earlier in this race, whereas Matt Snow really does have a very similar pace that he was showing earlier on. That is why that gap.
Danny Formal able to pull away from the 24 of Leo Lamelas. Once he's gotten by, he seems to have been able to pull away, and now Madison Snow 0.5 of a second behind Stephen Agakani in the 6. He is closing that gap. The question is, what will he do with it? Is he going to try to force his way through and end this season on a high note with a victory, or will he settle for second in the championship that comes with that? Down through Bishop's Bend, 145 miles an hour in one of these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos when everything is right. Probably not quite that quick right now with the Pirelli tires being worn a little bit. And then the run through turn 16 takes you on to the Ullman Straight. 165 miles an hour at the end of this straightaway. Heavy braking at the end, down 2, maybe 3 gears, and then hold on, because there comes a point in time when you get close to the apex where it's hard to even see. The car's off the ground over the bumps. You want to be down closer to the apex. That's where everything that you know tells you need to be, but the closer to the apex you get in 17, quite often, the bumpier it gets.
Better pace on that lap from Stephen Agakani, 2 minutes 4.2. That's his best lap of the race so far, but Madison Snow is tracking his every move there, and closing in on the both of them is Brandon Godovic in that precision performance motorsports car number 46.
Snow right there, and Godovic, talk about wanting to win a race and end the season on a high note. He was victorious in the second race at VIR, had problems after what looked like maybe a victory was going to be his. He was so fast at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and then, as you called it earlier, a quote clerical error on the part of the team forced him to make a pit stop, go to the garage area for fuel. That cost him what might have been a victory. He wants to end the season on a high note. Now, Madison Snow, Jeremy, has another decision to make with Brandon Godovic closing in. How hard does he fight with Godovic? They know the points. They know what's at stake. They know that if he finishes third, he can still take the championship. So how hard are you going to fight with Godovic as the lead threesome is closing in on a slower class car in front?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, third place will be enough for Madison Snow, so I'm sure if Brandon Godovic gets super close to him, he's still 4 or 5 car lengths behind now, maybe even a little more as the leaders come up to lap Sidney McKee as they head on to the Ullman Straight. But for Snow, he's certainly got to be mindful of that car that's really, really close behind him in third position. We've got 5 different teams in the top 5 positions: US Racetronics, Change Racing, Precision Performance, Prestige Performance, and ANSA Motorsports filling top 5 positions. There's nothing to choose really in terms of pace between any of them.
Agakani across the line one more time, just over 13 minutes to go. Hats off to Sidney McKee, running in LB Cup, shown second in the category right now. Down the back straightaway on some of those long views, you could see her turning her head, checking her mirrors, making sure that the faster cars that she knew were coming by had clear passage through. The first car through was Agakani. She made sure she stayed wide a little bit into 17, allowing Snow clear passage, and then Godovic. So McKee really learning the trade here in Lamborghini. Did not interfere with this battle up front.
Yeah, good heads-up driving from Sidney McKee. Had her first win in the LB Cup class last time out at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca out on the west coast, and now running again in the second position. Matt Dickens' car clearly has been giving him problems. He got back up to speed. We saw the car very slow on the start-finish straight. They did pick up speed again, but now seems to have dropped back again. Problems for Matt Dickens. He's back to third place in LB Cup, and Randy Solari looking for another pretty handy victory here in that class to wrap up the championship in the perfect style in LB Cup.
Danny Formal trying to end the season with a win. He's had good finishes. He's been on the podium. He's been in second. He's been in third, but he has not had a victory. Leading right now in Pro-Am over Leo Lamelas, but Lamelas is going to try to have an answer for Danny Formal by the time this is over. The best battle on the racetrack is up front, though, over the top three. And about 0.7 of a second for Madison Snow. Last time by, he was behind Stephen Agakani, and then about another 0.5 second back to Brandon Godovic. Such a high-speed run down into turn one here, closing in on 155 miles an hour or so. And then through turn one, an apex speed of around 95 miles an hour. So you are hauling the mail. Big bump at the exit of turn one the drivers always have to be aware of. And then a section of the racetrack that really requires patience as you head into turns 3, 4, and 5. Multiple pavement changes in here where the balance of the car changes. You have grip and then you don't, from one surface to the next, around Gurney Bend and down to the hairpin. If you want to get a pass done, this is perhaps one of the best places under heavy braking, but a big bump just as you get towards the turn in.
Yeah, it's tricky down there, isn't it? And it's a really good race between these three at the front. Stephen Agakani, he's just turned his best lap of the race. 4.11. We're just over 10 minutes remaining in this race, but he's sort of stabilised that gap now to Madison Snow. But Brandon Godovic is making things interesting as well in that third position. That's a great looking car. The one that's out front is a different colour scheme that we've seen for Stephen Agakani and Jacob Edson. First, all the way through to this final round of the championship. It is indeed a brand new car, and it's a Tricolore edition. So it looks stunning, hand painted at the factory in Bologna in Italy. Primarily white, but with little Italian green and white, green and red flashes on it. Looks absolutely stunning, and it looks even better for that team because it's out in the lead of this race.
It's amazing how beautiful paint schemes look when your car is out in front with them. They always look faster when they are out in front, and it gives you an idea of exactly what this team was willing to do, US Racetronics, to try to bring this championship home for Agakani and Edson. A brand new car, a lot of times a little bit stiffer, a little more rigid, and that allows the suspension to do what it needs to do because the chassis does not flex. And for Agakani and Edson, they took that brand new car and have been incredibly impressive with it this weekend. 2 pole positions and a race win so far, but it may not be enough. The 69 now under attack. Eric Curran, former WeatherTech champion, behind the wheel of the 69. He is trying not to go down a lap to Danny Formal. William Hubble had started the 69. Good to see Hubble back in the series. Ran last year, but has been absent throughout the first part of the season this year, but returns here at Sebring for a send-off. And Eric Curran showing that he still has speed, and the battle up front continues to be close, Jeremy. In fact, I think it's gotten closer.
Yeah, it certainly, I think it has, just a fraction quicker that time for Madison Snow, just about 1/10 of a second, not even 1/10 of a second, just 100 of a second quicker. So infinitesimal, but certainly Brandon Godovic is closer to Madison Snow in that third position car number 46 for Precision Performance. And this is a really good, entertaining 3-car battle for the lead now, with just 8 minutes of the 50 remaining.
Well, I'll give Brandon Godovic credit too, and I'm going to have a little foreshadowing as I say this. Brandon Godovic is very aware of the championship that is in front of him. He knows where both of those cars sit in the championship and what it means, how close it is. While a victory would be special for him, and I certainly think he'll try to grab it if he can, it would be win number 2 on the season. I don't think he wants to get in the middle of something where a fight that he doesn't really have a dog in. So it's one of those things where, as a race car driver, you really have to think about this, because you want those positions, you want those points, you want to move forward. Getting past Madison Snow would do nothing for Brandon Godovic in the championship. It's not going to really get him another spot. But if he messes up in trying to get past Madison Snow and messes up Madison Snow's championship, that story will reverberate through the paddock for years to come. And teams remember that. They remember a driver for not only their performances on the racetrack via the stopwatch and the finishing positions, but how they conduct themselves in situations such as this. Brandon Godovic knows that. He has plenty of experience, plenty of speed. So there's a lot of thought and calculation going on in his mind too, as to when, where, and how he can get a move made, if he can.
Well, that's very true. I mean, you know, all three of these guys, well, 2 of the 3 are very experienced. Even Agakani, goodness gracious, he's only 17 years of age, so he doesn't have anything like experience as the other 2. You wouldn't know that from the way he's driving in the lead of this race. So coming up now to lap the LB Cup lead, that's Randy Saleri. About the first possible place. Randy Saleri there doing a really nice job to stay out of the way and allow the 3 leaders to go past. Hats off to you, Randy. Fine move. Now back line. Try and see if we can learn something.
Randy Saleri, and we talked about Sidney McKee earlier, and that's one of the things that drivers learn throughout these different classes. You may not be as fast as the pro drivers up front, but you learn to deal with multi-class traffic. And for Sidney McKee, which we saw earlier, Randy Saleri there at the exit of turn 10, a pretty tight area of the racetrack, knows that he had no one really around him, so he didn't have to worry about giving up a position. Easy for him to be aware of the battle that was coming through. I'm sure his team told it about it on the radio. Just slid out of the way and allowed Agakani, Snow, and Godovic safe passage.
Yeah, good heads-up driving now. Just 5 minutes remaining in this race. So for the team there at US Racetronics, they'll be breathing a sigh of relief in one way, because they want Stephen Agakani to bring this car home for what will be that team's 4th win of the season. But at the same time, they want this race to go longer in the hopes that perhaps some sort of a problem for number 16 for Madison Snow, and perhaps they can sneak out this gap.
Godovic looking as they go through 5. He wants a run off of turn 5 and 6 so he can make a move down at turn 7. It really is one of the best opportunities, but these Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos, with the braking systems that they have, if you're acclimated to the anti-lock braking system, you're comfortable with it. They have phenomenal braking, good aerodynamics, good brakes, and good tires give you short braking zones. And so even there, from 150 plus miles an hour down to 43 miles an hour, the braking zone isn't very long.
No, it isn't, is it? I mean, these cars, you know, the performance of these cars is pretty special, and particularly for drivers who are in the early stages of their pro racing careers, the LB Cup contenders. I'm thinking, this is a lot of race car. I mean, these cars are fast, and they are very difficult to drive right on the limit.
And that's the thing that's so impressive about LB Cup drivers coming in and running with the leaders up front. All 4 classes, the exact same car, the exact same 600 plus V10 horsepower that's behind them, the same Pirelli tires. So the equipment is there. You just learn to deal with it as you move up through the classes. You find more speed. The officials move you up to the next class. You race with drivers of your caliber, your experience, your talent level, and then you just move on up through the classes. Brandon Godovic in the 46, the black and red through 17 onto the front straightaway. Better run this time, but time running out. Under 3 minutes as they cross the line. 2 more laps here at Sebring in the 2020 season for Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Yeah, and Stephen Agakani here running really nice, consistent laps. 1 minute 4.3 last time around, this time around 1 minute 4.2 the lap before, 1 minute 4.3 the lap before that. Super consistent, looking after his tyres. He didn't want to push too hard early in his stint and use up this Pirelli rubber, and you want to make sure he's got some tyres to work with in the closing stages. That's exactly what he's done. And he's actually stretched the lead just a little bit on these last couple of laps. As you say, with less now than 3 minutes remaining, will be white flag next time around.
Madison Snow on the brakes really, really hard that time, pinning the nose of his Lamborghini into turn 7. The rear just dancing around, looking like a tail wagging on a dog, trying to do everything he could to keep it back where it belonged and keep Brandon Godovic behind him. Madison Snow, there's no give up, there's no quit here. He could easily slow down, let Godovic by, and just say, I'm going to cruise to this championship, but nothing doing. He is pushing every lap, and they'll have another one to do once this lap is concluded.
Yeah, they will. So, yeah, there's no way that Stephen Agakani can relax right now. The youngster from Los Angeles, California, he's been inch perfect so far. He's just got to maintain his concentration now for another, 3.74 miles when he crosses the start-finish line to complete this lap. But all of a sudden, Madison Snow is right there again. He seemed to have stretched out. He seemed to have stretched out that lead a bit, but all of a sudden it hasn't. It's evaporated. Less than 6 or 7 tenths between them as they head into Sunset Bend.
Stephen Agakani in the number 6 US Racetronics Lamborghini seems to get a good drive off of 17 every lap. He'll need it this time as the white flag waves. Madison Snow right behind him, and then Brandon Godovic. The top 3 nose to tail, only about 2 car lengths between first and second and second and third. Is this the way they are going to finish? Stephen Agakani, Jacob Edson in the 6, came in to Sebring on a mission, and a little mistake for Agakani under braking into 4. The car, a little bit of a wiggle, a little slide. Snow closes in just that much more. He brings Godovic with him. They arrived here on a mission, I was saying, for Agakani and Edson, and that was to collect maximum points. So far, they have, Jeremy.
They have indeed 16 points yesterday. That's 15 for the win, plus 1 for the pole position. And now within a couple of miles, they're making 16 more today. Might not be enough in the championship, but it's been a really good performance, both by Jacob Edson in the first part of this race, and then in the second half by Stephen Agakani, the young, just 17 years.
Good drive off of turn 10 for Agakani. Seems to pull a car length or so. Perhaps Snow a little under brakes, a little better under brakes, I should say, and Agakani a little better off the corner. There is an ebb and flow that we see around this Sebring International Raceway circuit between these 2 cars. One's a little better one area, the other another. Agakani one last time in 2020 in his Lamborghini in IMSA Super Trofeo North America action through 16 down the back straightaway. The sun setting here at Sebring, setting on the 2020 season. Godovic looking for a way around Madison Snow. He wants to move up 1 position on the podium. The flag is going to await them just around turn 17. One more time over these bone-jarring bumps in 17. Stephen Agakani, Jacob Edson, they did everything they needed to do, everything they could. They take the victory at Sebring, but it will not be enough for the championship. Madison Snow, consistency has brought him the title in 2020. In the Pro-Am category, Danny Formal, from last to first, he will win in Pro-Am. Had to start last in race number 2 here. He takes the checkered flag, and a stirring performance and a race-long battle with Leo Lamelas.
Fine performance by Danny Formal. He was super fast last time out on the west coast at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and a couple of pole positions, but agonizingly he was beaten in both of those races at the checkered flag. First of all by Leo Lamelas in the second race by Andrea Amici. By Corey Lewis in the first race, and the second race by Leo Lamelas. But it's been a great performance by him today. His teammate, by the way, Sergio Jimenez, had been running in the 5th position. He pulled out in the closing stages, clearly had a problem in the number 13 car. But what a great effort here it has been by Jacob Edson and Stephen Arcani. Their 4th win of the season. It won't be enough for the championship, but it's been a banner weekend for that US Racetronics team and the Beverly Hills Lamborghini dealership.
I hope when Stephen Agakani and Jacob Edson look back on 2020, they savor the wins that they have, and they're proud of the performance that they put in. It's like I said, no season is ever perfect, and it's almost needed to be in order to win this championship. Madison Snow certainly was not perfect, but he was consistent, and it is consistency that brings those championship trophies home. It has been an awesome 2020 season for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Congratulations to all our race winners throughout the season, and certainly our champions in the 4 classes. It has been a trying season, both on the racetrack and off. Hats off to all the competitors, to all the champions, to all the teams, and all the fans. We'll see you next season.